Okay. Good morning, students. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay. So, continuing from what we discussed yesterday. Now we looked at two different class uh, of the solids. One is the crystalline solids, and the other one is the amorphous solids. So it's like these are the two extremes. Uh, so one side, suppose there are crystals, and the other extreme there is the amorphous solids. Okay, all the all the real uh, solids, they fall anywhere in between. That means they are neither fully crystalline, nor they are fully amorphous. So there is a degree of crystallinity, there is a degree of amorphous, there is amorphous nature in the same material, which is the solids that are occurring naturally. Such materials are known as polycrystalline materials. So these are the polycrystalline. We know what is poly. Poly means many. Okay, many crystalline. So this solid consisting of many crystals is known as polycrystalline material. Okay, now many, this number may vary. For example, if you look at the image on the right, so it's a representation of a polycrystalline material. Now if you say there are grain A, grain B, and grain C. Within a grain, if you see, the arrangement is periodic. Okay, and within a grain, whether it is grain A, grain C, grain B, their unit cell, their arrangement of the constituents is periodic, and the arrangement is periodic, and but it is different from, say, the arrangement in grain A is different in grain B, and then this again is different than the grain C. Okay, so this is a very close diagram representing a bigger one. Suppose this is 100 micrometer, this much distance is 100 micrometer. So these grains, individual grains, are 50 to 60, 49 micrometers across, and this particular region where three grains are meeting, this is represented by this inside diagram. So in this inside diagram, what we can see, there are three grains that are coinciding at this particular location, and between these grains, the circles that are represented by uh, blue dots, these represents the grain boundary. Okay, so there are grain, and the boundary, three-dimensional boundary, that separates individual grain or separate the region where the constituents are periodically arranged. This boundary is known as grain boundary. Now if you look at the grain boundary, the constituents here are they are not periodically arranged, they are randomly arranged. This is what is known as the amorphous constituent of the solid. So the number of atoms within the grain, they are uh, they are not periodically arranged. There is no particular order, so they are amorphous in nature. So this particular region is amorphous. Okay, the grain boundary is amorphous, and the crystals are the grains are crystalline. So there is a relative amount of polycrystalline as well as the amorphous solids in the material, and such a material is polycrystalline material. So there are different regions of ordered arrangement of the constituent known as grains. The grains are separated by a boundary known as grain boundary, and the arrangement is ordered within a grain and disordered along the grain boundary. And the crystal structure may be the same. For example, if you look at the unit cell, this unit cell, this one and the other one, all the unit cell may be same, but their orientation is different. You can see in the grain A, the x-axis and y-axis, axis is horizontally aligned and y-axis is vertical. But in grain B and grain C, they are slightly disoriented than the horizontal orientation. So maybe the unit helix is the same, but they are differently arranged. So this is what is seen here. The crystal structure may be the same, but the alignment may be different within different grains. And grain boundary also known as the two-dimensional defect. The surface defect is known as the two-dimensional defect. This is the micrograph, actual micrograph of a material. So you can see uh, this is this much distance is 20 micrometers. This sign reverse H, this represents micrometer. So these are grains in a few tens of micrometers across, and what we can see here, this is a grain boundary. This blue line represents the grain boundary, and along this grain boundary, if you see, the arrangement of the lattice is similar, but the alignment is different. Okay, and these individual grains, very well knit grains, they are separated by a grain boundary. And if we look a bit closely, so if this is the line that represents the grain boundary, this line deviates slightly, okay, along this. Had it been the same grain, it should have gone something like this, but there is a difference in the theta. If this theta is less than 15 degrees, then this is what is known as low angle grain boundary. Okay, low angle grain boundary. Low angle grain boundary. Otherwise, if theta is greater than 15 degree, then this is high angle grain boundary. High angle grain boundary. So this orientation, higher angle or low angle grain boundary, has the effect, has the implication onto the properties of material. For example, mechanical properties. If you have a solid majorly consisting of low angle grain boundary, then it is easy for the dislocation to pass. So there is a dislocation right here. So this dislocation will move, and with small amount of strain, because there is only small change in the orientation that need to take place. So the defect dislocation can move comparatively easily as compared to the if it is a high angle grain boundary. So material slippage, the ductility of the material improves. So this is, and in a polycrystalline material, if you see all these are all, say this is the first grain here, this is second, closely this is third, and then this side it is fourth, and then other side, each separately looking, this is all, there are different grains within the grain. The arrangement of the constituent is uniform, periodic, which is distracted at the grain boundary, and then further on the next grain, again the arrangement is periodic. Okay, so these are the polycrystalline material. And the other extreme, as we discussed yesterday, is a single crystal. That means throughout the solid, whether it is 5 to 10 20 centimeters or 5 to 10 centimeters in diameter, the arrangement is same throughout. Okay, so this suppose this is a wafer, silicon wafer, it will have exactly same kind of arrangement of the constituent atoms throughout. There is no grain boundary. Okay, for example, this is, if this is the hexagonal boron nitride, so this is polycrystalline. So in polycrystalline you can see there are these grain boundaries. So here these are the grain boundaries here, but if in the single crystal of the same material, this is a single crystal, so there is no grain boundary everywhere. There is a periodic arrangement. This represents in 2 dimensions, but this concept extends to 3 dimensions as well. So even in the 3 dimension, if you extend this surface into a volume, so there are no defects in single crystalline material. So single crystal, or also known as the monocrystalline solids, is a material in which the crystal lattice of the entire sample, this word entire is very important, entire sample is continuous and unbroken, and to the edge of the sample with no grain boundaries. Okay, so if we look at the whole picture now, so this is a crystalline material, or what is known as the monocrystalline material to be precise. So this is monocrystalline material, and this one is the polycrystalline material, and then you have the amorphous material. Same is the representation over here, polycrystalline. So in the single crystal, it's a periodic across the whole volume, and in the polycrystalline, it's a periodic within a grain, and in the amorphous there is no periodicity. Okay, so now if we compare the crystalline and amorphous solids, so in the crystals have the definite and regular geometry, and have long range as well as the short range order, whereas in amorphous solids they have short range order, but they do not have any long range order. There is no definite geometry in the samples. Crystal possesses a high melting point because they are pre-ordered, and amorphous they do generally have low melting. They do not have the sharp melting points. The crystal extents have regularity when they are formed, and in case of the amorphous, there is no external regularity in their crystal structure, so they are amorphous. These crystalline solids give a clean surface. If you have the NaCl crystal, as we have seen, the so let us look at this. So this is a fracture surface of the this crystalline surface. So you can see there are planes. This is how much? This is 20 micrometer. Okay, so this surface is fractured, but you can see there are regular, even when it is fractured, the regular arrangement of the constituents, it appears in the fractured surface. So there are particular along this there are one axis, then this is the another axis, and from this it can be seen that this is a kind of a crystalline material. So all these planes are arranged. Now, in the macro structure, it may look like irregular, but at the micro scale, this is what is known along a particular direction. This actually has the surface is fractured. So, sorry, I think this screen. Wait a minute. So what we were talking about, this one here. So here the microstructure visible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Audible, Rahul?
Yes, sir.
ये स्क्रीन नजर आ रही है क्या?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm trying to show you, if a crystalline material is just fractured, there is a clear surfaces. There are clear evidence of the periodic arrangement of the constituent in the fractured surface. Okay, so this is evident in this graph. So this is one of the axes. There's another axis. You can see this small distance is 20 micrometer, and at a very small scale, there are these regular surfaces that appears after the surface is fractured. It's meant over here, and usually amorphous material exhibit irregular cut. So in the amorphous, so for example, it's the amorphous material. So along this side, surface. You can see this side, so this side or here, all these are amorphous material, the carbon nanotubes, etc. So for example, this is the fracture surface of glass. Okay, so you can see there is no particular arrangement, there are regular lines. So this is the characteristic of a amorphous surface. You can see at the center, this whole thing is 1 micrometer. Okay, even though at lower surface these lines in between the crystalline, but here is amorphous material is fracture. And they have a heat of fusion. That means because of the crystalline structure, if you try to heat, each bond will break at a definite temperature. Okay, whereas in amorphous material they are basically highly viscous liquids. So as the temperature or thermal energy is applied, what happens, the viscosity increases and the amorphous material starts flowing. So this is evident when the glass or plastic is heated. Because of their amorphous nature, they becomes less and less viscous and start to flow. Crystalline solids are very rigid. They mechanically they are strong because the molecule have definite geometry and the restoring force. Whereas in amorphous they do not exhibit a rigidity. They are generally soft. Okay, and these crystalline solids are considered as true solids, whereas these are the pseudo solids. These are highly viscous liquids. Okay, so highly viscous liquids having the definite shape and size are the amorphous materials. In crystalline solids, they display an isotropism, whereas the amorphous materials show isotropism. So isotropic means we know the properties of the material are same throughout the in every direction. So okay, in amorphous, basically the properties of the solid gets averaged out, and that have the same value along all the directions. Whereas in the crystalline solids, because the arrangement is has a certain perfect order, so because of that there is different properties along the different directions. So this is about crystalline and amorphous solids. Now let us look at the crystal lattice. When we look at lattice, what exactly does it mean? Suppose I'm trying to make a building, right? So what I need first is the scaffolding. Okay. So scaffolding, let me show you the thing. Yeah. So suppose I want to make a building, I need this scaffolding first. Okay. And if I don't have this scaffolding, then it's not possible to make complex structures, right? So lattice is something corresponds to the scaffolding. If I have the scaffolding, uh, then I can basically make the crystal structure as desired. So in terms of the solid, lattice is equivalent to the scaffolding. Fine. So if I this is the crystal lattice, and the lattice plays a role equivalent to scaffolding for the scaffolding for the building construction. So what is crystal lattice? It is defined as the locus of atomic points in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 or 3 dimensional space, defined by translational vectors a1, a2, a3, such that the arrangement of these atomic position appears the same when viewed from any point in the lattice. Okay, so crystal lattice is the locus of atomic points. Locus, position, coordinates. Okay, for example, if R is the vector, so if no, this is suppose this is the scaffolding. in case of this scaffolding, what we designate is, suppose at each intersection of the point there is a location of the atom. Okay, so by this definition we identified at where is the position at which point the constituents can stay. Okay, so constituents can stay at a point where these the lines are intersecting, right? So without the atom, whatever is the arrangement is the lattice. And suppose we are starting from origin, this is O, and we are talking about certain point, suppose, because this is two dimension, so I can write R is equal to maybe U say 1 A1 plus U2 A2. Okay, this is vector. So where A1 is along x-axis and A2 is y-axis. Okay, A1 is x-axis, A2 is y-axis. So if I need to go from say point O to point say x, OX vector is U1 A1 plus U2 A2. And if I want to go to suppose from this point, this point to next point. Okay, so it is equivalent to, suppose this is R1, either I take the point right from O to X, or from X to suppose this is B. So it could be R1 as it is given here, R1 plus the next vector R1, R we already know, this is R. Then we can have the coordinates of the next one, which is equivalent to this one. So that way we can define the position vector of any point in the lattice, maybe 1 dimension, 2 dimension, or 3 dimension. Okay, so what exactly is crystalline? This is what is known as the scaffolding. Okay, at each this intersection point, if there is a atom, there is a constituent, then it becomes the, so this is the lattice, and this is a basis. If you suppose there is a okay, let us take this. So these are the empty chairs in a classroom, right? So you can assume this as equivalent to a lattice, unless somebody is sitting on the chair. There is a hall, there is everything, but this cannot be a meeting, this cannot be a gathering. Okay, similarly in a lattice have the capability to accommodate the atom. Okay, lattice can accommodate the atom, and the atoms are known as atoms or constituents. They are known as the bases, and the arrangement, the scaffolding, this is known as lattice. Okay, so this is the arrangement of the bases on the lattice points, and therefore what actually we have is the so there is a regular lattice of the atoms. Each atom has its has a positive charge nucleus surrounded with the negative electrons spinning, and they act like tiny magnets or bars, and these electrons do not orbit like planets, but they are distributed in space like in a Formici or so. Neighboring spins of individual atom, they interact with one another, and they form patterns. So this is atom. If this spin is attached to each atom, which is the characteristic of the electron, is spinning around the nuclei, so that give rise to a magnetic character to the atom. So these two things combined results into the magnetic points at each lattice point, and when these interact with one another, they give rise to patterns, magnetic patterns. So that changes that. So you can see, you can assume as if there's a tiny magnet kept at a certain location, and as the external condition is changed, all these tiny magnets interact with one another, resulting in the property of solid. So this leads to what is known as that crystal structure is a combination of lattice plus basis. So lattice is the arrangement and basis is the constituents. So if chair पे कौन बैठ रहा है, it doesn't matter, but chairs should be there. So this chair play a role of the lattice, and then constituents are basis. So crystal is defined to be a repeating or regular array of atoms. In the proper mathematical description, must account for what is repeating and how it is repeating. Two parts of the lattice are separate as a lattice and base, and these two combine, which is known as the crystal structure. Okay, so to look at it like this. So we have the space lattice, and this is the base or basis or atoms. When these two things are combined, we get this, which is known as the crystal structure. And or we can take the example. For example, this is the lattice, and we have changed the basis now. So these are these mices. This is the basis and this lattice. So what we get is the periodic structure or the structure of these mices in the two-dimensional network. So now let us look at what is a Bravais lattice. This fellow Bravais, basically what we are looking at is, what is a lattice? It is the locus of the points in the three-dimensional, one-dimensional or two-dimensional space. This is the locus of atomic points. Okay, so lattice is the locus of atomic points position in three-dimensional space. अब ये locus है, आप chairs कैसे कैसे लगा सकते हैं? मान लिया अगर हम hall की बात कर रहे हैं, there may be there may be different ways to look at okay, so suppose this is so what Bravais basically did is what are the different ways in which the lattice points in the 1, 2 or 3 dimension can be arranged. What are different unique ways? Okay, so a Bravais lattice, which is simply called as a lattice, Asimov calls it simply lattice, is a mathematical construct designated to describe the underlying periodicity of a crystal. So lattice ऐसा नहीं है कि एक ही arrangement है, there could be multiple arrangement of the lattice points in the space, so that it has the unique arrangement. So there are two completely equivalent definitions of the lattice. Say this is the lattice vector, n1 e1 plus n2 a2 plus n3 a3, where a1 a2 a3 are the three independent vectors along x, y, and z, and n these are the numbers, they are the integers. Bravais lattice is infinite array of discrete points with an arrangement and orientation which looks exactly same at each point. So this is the infinite array of the discrete points. Infinite array of the discrete point. How these discrete point arranged in the space in such a manner they look exactly same at each point. Okay, so this is how these lattice points are arranged. And this second definition, I mean this is a mathematical definition one, and the second one is what is the conceptual definition. So this definition 2 is handy for the first impressions, but definition 1 will form the foundations of mathematical treatment. So what you can say, this is second is the definition, and mathematical representation of this is given by the definition 1. Okay, what are the properties of the Bravais lattice? So properties of Bravais lattice. Uh, First thing, there are actually a finite set of possible Bravais lattice. अब ऐसा नहीं है कि आपके पास इनफाइनाइट अरेंजमेंट है, यूनिक अरेंजमेंट इन द स्पेस to have the basis situated on those lattice points. Infinite arrangement नहीं है. There are actually finite set of possible lattices. Okay, और 3 dimension में ये 14 है. यही चीज जो है was shown by Bravais. First time mathematically he proved that there are only 14 different unique ways in which the lattice points can be arranged in the 3-dimensional space. Okay, so that's how these are known as the Bravais lattice. तो लैटिस के यूनिक अरेंजमेंट कितने हैं ये बताया ब्रेविस ने. ओके, तो उन्हीं के नाम से इसलिए ब्रेविस लैटिस इनको कहते हैं. तो these 14 कैसे कैसे पता करेंगे कि they are equivalent? Their surrounding, if you move by the position vector, then the surrounding of the point should match exactly, should be exactly same. Okay, so and this is determined the underlying symmetries. Quick inspection shows that not every lattice is not a Bravais lattice. A good counter example is the say honeycomb. So this is the honeycomb structure, which is also known as the hexagonal. But if you have seen A, B, C, and A, B kind of structure, so these two are equivalent. So every lattice is not a Bravais lattice, and this is this will be more clear as we follow the discussion. So the another word that comes is the primitive. Primitive को अगर हम शाब्दिक रूप देखें, literal meaning देखें, so primitive means very old. Okay, so primitive vectors and unit cells. If you look at the Bravais lattice, this is possible to describe all the points using the position vector. आपके पास position vector है जो हमने last slide में discuss किया. So using those position vector, we can define the the position vector, the Bravais lattice, or locus of the atoms in the lattice by using the position vector. Here the vector AI is known as the primitive lattice vectors, and these so this position vector consists of lattice primitive lattice vectors and lattice indices. So primitive lattice vectors are along x, y, and z direction, and the lattice indices basically are the integers that represent the, excuse me. Okay, so primitive indices. Okay, so this position vector consists of primitive lattice vectors, which is A1, A2, and A3, and then lattice indices as N1, N2, N3, and their combination resulting into the position vector of the lattice point in the 3-dimensional lattice gives us the position vector. In general, repeating unit into 2-dimensional is known as a unit cell. So ये हो गया हमारा primitive vectors. And what is a unit cell? अब हमने कल एक 3-dimensional construct के लिए we look at either the tiles on the floor or brick on the wall or any structure for that matter which is generated by repeating a fundamental unit. The fundamental unit, which is repeated over and over again along 3 dimensions, 2 dimension or 1 dimension to generate the pattern in 3, 2 or 1 dimension, is known as the जो fundamental unit है जिसको repeat करते हैं उसको कहते हैं unit cell. Okay, so in general the repeating volume in a crystal is known as unit cell, and for Bravais lattice the primitive lattice vectors can span smallest possible volume and result in the primitive unit cell. So unit cell, for example, I am trying to construct this wall. Okay, so ये wall अगर construct करनी है, so I can have this as the unit cell. I can repeat this along x and y direction 4 times, and I can have the wall constructed. Or what, there are multiple ways through which this can be done. So you can have even smaller unit cell. Okay, and I can repeat this unit cell multiple number of times, maybe the 16 or 24 times to get this wall. So in this case the repeating unit becomes smaller. Okay, if the now this primitive unit vectors have the minimum size in case of the this primitive lattice vectors. primitive एक एटम से दूसरे एटम तक जो सबसे स्मॉल है, सपोज ये हमारा यहाँ पर अरेंजमेंट है lattice point का 2 dimensions में. So there are these primitive lattice vectors are given having multiple possible orientations. So there is one orientation, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. Okay, तो अगर मैं इनको यूज़ करूँ, so I can generate a unit cell. For example, I can have this as a unit cell, I can have this as a unit cell, or I can have this as a unit cell, or similarly I can have this as a unit cell, or I can have this as a unit cell. So there are various possibilities. Okay, लेकिन the unit cell having what is known as the smallest possible volume, सबसे छोटा जो होगा. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप बिल्कुल उसको नैनो ऐसे भी नीचे या एंगस्ट्रॉम, हेम्टोमीटर, there is a limit to the smallest primitive vector. तो primitive vectors को यूज़ करके जो आप यूनिट सेल बनाओगे वो यूनिट सेल कहलाया जाएगा primitive unit cell. Primitive unit cell is the unit cell having smallest possible volume. Neither primitive basis vectors nor the primitive unit cells are unique. Unique तो नहीं है, लेकिन volume, I mean orientation अलग अलग हो सकती है, लेकिन उसका जो है total volume will be should be smallest. So for example, again unit cell can be like this, or it could be like this, could be like this, or could be like this. So there are various ways in which the unit cell can be repeated in order to generate the 3-dimensional structure, or 2-dimensional shown in these examples. Okay, so what are the properties of the primitive unit cell? Quickly we'll look at it. We have how many minutes? Okay, 10 minutes. So if every atom is represented as the using this position vector, then one can show that every primitive cell has exactly one lattice point. अब देखिए कि अगर हम जो हमने यहाँ पर ये देखा है, these are the various different arrangement which can be termed as the primitive unit cell. Okay, but the lattice vector along x or y are not unique. They are it's not unique. They can be different, but the condition is that the volume should be smallest. Okay, so the primitive unit cell generally have only one lattice point. Okay, हर एक primitive unit cell में एक lattice point होगा कम से कम, okay, उससे कम नहीं हो सकता. So exactly has one lattice point, and it follows that every primitive cell has exactly same volume, which is 1 by n, where n is the number point density. One can always find the primitive cell by considering parallelepiped spanned by the primitive basis vectors. तो एक primitive unit cell का for example primitive जो vectors है उनको आप एक parallelepiped बना दें. यहाँ पर parallelogram बनाया है 2 dimension में, लेकिन 3 dimension में आप parallelepiped बना सकते हो. So that will be a primitive unit cell, and it will have smallest volume, and it will at least contain one atomic one constituent atom. Another way to construct the primitive unit cell is by suppose this central point is the lattice point, and if we connect this point to all its neighbors by a straight line, at the middle of the point we draw a perpendicular, and this process is completed for all connecting lines. For example, this central atom has 6 neighbors, and all 6 neighbors, I mean 3 pairs, are connected by lines, and in these 3 pairs at the center, between the center and the external atom, there is a perpendicular that is drawn. So the volume enclosed by this this way, enclosed by these perpendiculars to the line joining between the 2 atoms, is known as what is known as Wigner-Sittis cell. So there is one primitive cell, then Wigner-Sittis cell. Again, in the Wigner-Sittis cell, again there is one atom in the whole volume. So this is also a primitive unit cell, but the construction is different. Okay, so created by bisecting the lines connecting a lattice point with its nearest neighbors. So most symmetric cells and the volume close to the lattice point. So these are the Bravais lattice at Bravais lattice 2 dimension. For example, this is oblique, where A is not equal to B and theta is not equal to M. Rectangular, then we have a centered rectangular, then hexagon, then cubic. So there can be multiple many such possibilities. These are the possibilities in the 2 dimensions. And for example, this is the triangle lattice, which is say hexagonal lattice. So in 2 dimensions, the position vector is r is equal to n1 a1 and 2 a2, and a1 is along say x-axis. So we can basically, so this is from, if this is the center point, from this is along x-axis. So this is a1, and a1 is equal to a into x, but b a2, because this is at a 60 degree, so that need to be determined accordingly. So a2, because suppose I along y-axis there is this is the magnitude is, suppose this will have half along this and under 3 by 2 along this. So components of x and y. So combining the components of x and y, we can get the a2. So then combining a1 and a2 in the position vector, we can find out the position vector of the atoms in the hexagonal lattice. And then for cubic, every primitive lattice vector has a has the same distance from a given lattice point A. So we can write the position vector as n1 a1 plus n2 a2 and n3 a3 and so on. And this position vector is if we repeat, we move from the initial position. Suppose we are moving in any direction, having these that is the position vector. So we will reach to a similar point in the lattice. Okay, so this is what is the condition for the periodicity in the crystal. Okay, so we should stop here, and we will take discuss about this thing in the next class. The next. Let me end this first.